Hey everyone, this is Frances Caballo and I have with me Nina Amir. Nina, welcome today.
Thank you so much, Francis. It's always great to hang out with you, and I'm honored to be asked to be part of your conversations.
All right, so I'm going to briefly go over her bio, and then we're going to see where everybody's from. So if you would like to say hello and type where you're from, you can start doing that now, because I'd love to find out where people are from when they come to the webinars. So this is a little bit about Nina first. I almost called you Bina, but no, it's Nina. Nina Amir is an Amazon best-selling author of such books as How to Blog a Book, The Author Training Manual, and Creative Visualization for Writers, which was published in October. She is known as the Inspiration to Creation Coach. I love that tagline, by the way.
Thank you.
As she helps writers, bloggers, and other creative people combine their passion and purpose so they move from idea to inspired action and achieve more inspired results. Nina is a hybrid author and has self-published, now get this, 17 books and as many as 11 books on Amazon's top 100 list and 6 on this same bestseller list at the same time. She is an international speaker and award-winning journalist and blogger, as a founder of the National Nonfiction Writing Month and the Nonfiction Writers University. Nina is also one of the 300 elite certified high-performance coaches working around the world, and the only one working with writers, bloggers, and dancers. In this webinar, Nina will show you how to turn your blog into a book production machine. Welcome, Nina.
Thank
so
you.
Happy to have you. Oh,
Yeah.
we've got people here. All right, Peter DeHaan is from, Peter, I haven't heard from you in a long time, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Hello from Chris Well from Nashville, Tennessee. Thanks for
I know
coming,
Chris. Hi, Chris.
Yeah, he's awesome. Holly Bertone or Bertoni from, I don't know, Pink Fortitude and Alexandria, Virginia. Gail Larson from not so sunny in Seattle. It's sunny here in Sonoma County. Jennifer Tonig from Michigan, Flint, Michigan. Dawn Hart from College Station, Texas. And Connie Reagan Green from Santa Barbara. Cool.
Hello, Connie. Hey, Connie.
I guess everyone else is shy today. Oh, Kevin Raybeck from Copenhagen. I always like to have a European representative, so great for Copenhagen. Did you know him too, Nina?
Excuse me?
Did you know Karen Robeck from Copenhagen?
She might be on my list. I don't know, but I was just trying to look. I missed what you were saying because I was trying to figure out what time it is there. It's probably about 9 p.m. there now. So.
And Connie says, hey, Nina, so excited to connect with you here today.
Thank you, Connie. Nice to connect with you, too.
All right. So I always like doing that. And everybody else is just going to be shy for a while. So that's okay. We have enough representation around the world. So it's a worldwide audience, Nina, coming to see you.
Awesome.
So we are going to start. And I have the first question. And feel free to ask questions as we go along. Nina will be answering them, especially if they're topic related while she's talking. She said it's okay to interrupt her and just go with the questions. Well, not interrupt her, but as she finishes her sentence, go with questions. So feel free to ask as many questions as you'd like today. I love when people ask a lot of questions. So, all right, here's my first question. You began blogging in 2005 or earlier. Why did you start, and how has blogging affected your life, Nina?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I think it was 2005. I'd have to go back and look, but it was 2005 or before. And how's it affected my life? Well, at first I would say it gave me a platform. Okay, so, it did give me that author's platform, a way to reach people in my target market. So in that sense, I would say the way it changed my life or affected my life was that it helped me fulfill my potential because I could get my message out to the people that I felt needed to hear it. It also gave me the satisfaction of reaching more people daily than I could with a book. And so for a long time, of course, when you start blogging, you don't have very many people reading. But I later found out that the average book today sells about 250 copies per year. Very sad number. 3,000 in its lifetime. And the thing is that while I didn't have early on 250 people a day reading my blog, I mean, that was the books is 250 books per year, right? But I now have, 250 or more people showing up on any one of my blogs per day. And back when I started, it was less, but figure, if you had 10 people a week, that's still, 52 weeks of the year, that's 520 people, right? Yeah. That's more people. So I could reach more people with my blog than I could with a book. And so that gave me a ton of satisfaction. Also, I think the way that it's affected my life as a writer is that blogging gave me weekly deadlines. Actually, several, because I ended up having more than one blog. But even when I had one, there was that deadline. I would say, okay, I'm posting blogs on these days, and I had to publish them I had to get them written and published. And so it was this mini deadline all the time. So accountability. And I think that because I blogged so much, I mean, like on writenonfictionnow.com, when I started that blog, in order to give it traction on the website, on the internet, I blogged 5 days a week.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, 5 days a week for wow. I think it was 9 or 10 months before I gave it up and went to 3 days a week. And I did 3 days a week for something like 2 or 3 years. So I have been a very prolific blogger, and I think that it made me a better and more effective writer. Also, I think that the way blogging has affected me is that it helped me build my business, right? I mean, because I've built a business around my blogs. I would call myself a professional blogger, although I'm not selling tons of product off my sites. It's definitely my main way to promote what I do. And most of my clients have read my blogs. And the last thing I would say is that the way blogging affected my writing or my life is that it helped me get published. Made me a published author.
Wow.
Not only self-published, but traditionally published, because as I began to get more, my blogs began to get more popular, it made it easier for me to get published. Your
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's really, and I like the point you made that someone may only have 250 readers a year, but that you were having that on a daily basis, or you built up to that on a daily basis.
I built up to that, but I was definitely reaching more people in a year than I could with a book that was selling an average number of copies.
Yeah, that gives one pause, for thought about whether or not because I know there's a lot of opinion about whether even fiction authors should blog, and some say no, they shouldn't have a blog, and others say they should. People like Anna R. Allen have done an excellent job. She's a fiction writer of having a highly successful blog, and I think that for all the reasons you stated, it makes a lot of sense for every author to have a blog.
Yeah, I agree. I think every author needs one.
Yeah. Okay, tell us why you think it's important that writers have an active blog.
So, active blog. So active rather than inactive, or just why they need a blog?
Why they need a blog.
Yeah, because it's not worth it if you're not going to be active. Then it's a waste of time and energy. So first of all, a blog, there's a misconception that a blog is just a blog and not a website. And that's not true. So today, if you use a system like WordPress, it's a content management system. That's the exact same thing as a website. So you're managing content on the internet. But what the blog is doing for you is it's helping you rise up in the search engine results pages. So every time you write and publish a blog post, Google or Bing or Yahoo, whoever, Chrome, they send out their little automated programs that we call bots and crawlers and spiders and whatever. Mm-hmm. They send them out and they index the content. So you write a blog post and publish it. They come along, they index it looking for what you write about. So they're looking for those search terms, those keywords as we call them, right?
Right.
And so when that happens, sorry, I'm muting something that's making noise. When that happens, the more often you publish a blog post, the more often they come along and catalog or index your content looking for these keywords. That pushes you up in the search engine results pages for those specific keywords. Now, I always say you don't even have to know what your keywords are. If you have a topic and all you do is write about that topic, like I wrote about how to blog a book all the time for 5 months. All I wrote about was blogging a book, how to blog a book, blog to book deals, blogging, blog posts, everything related to that, right?
Right.
In 4.5, 5 months, I had #1 Google status, which means that when you went to the search engine, to Google, and you put in anything related to blogging books, I came up #1. That
Wow.
gave me what's called visibility, right? So
Yeah.
your author website, your blog, is what's going to make you discoverable on the internet, because the more you write about one topic or a series of topics that are related. So I work with people on career plans, author and expert career plans, so that we can come up with a blog plan so that even if they have 3, 4, 5 different books which are varying in topics, we find a theme so that they're writing about a theme, so Google gets it. This is what this person writes about. So then when somebody searches for that on the internet, you're found. And that is going to help you sell books, get clients, customers, all that stuff. And so to me, if you want to be visible and discoverable, then you have to have a site. The other thing is, you probably know, Frances, because you're the social media expert. With a blog, you have content to share.
Right.
Otherwise,
Exactly.
you're just curating content. You're sharing other people's content, so you're telling people about your lunch or where you went on vacation, which nobody really cares about. So what they want is something concrete that gives them value and benefit to their life. And so even if you're a novelist, there are ways to blog so that you're giving readers something valuable. I mean, if you're J.K. Rowling's, people are happy to read about her vacation, but I don't know that she's posting about her vacation, but you know what I mean. If you're that famous, then people just want to know you. But I think still the way you're going to keep them is to provide value, and so that's where the blog comes into use.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I'm just checking. So we have a question from Chris Well. Is there a method or a trick to help you write so prolifically, or is just focus and discipline?
Well, I think we're going to talk a little bit about productivity later, Chris, but it is focus and discipline. My training is as a magazine journalist, so I'm a journalist at heart, and deadlines, I always say, are my friends. And so if I have a deadline, so I set up, for my blog, so I have 3 active blogs and 1 not totally inactive, but sort of inactive blog. And so the 3 that are active, I'm posting on them once a week at this point. And, but even when I had 5 days or 3 days, it was a deadline, right? And so I knew even if I was up at 1 in the morning writing that blog post, it had to be published. I have a deadline. My blogs are published at 12:35 in the morning. Now, occasionally something goes wrong or something happens. A couple times a year, my blog post gets published later in the day. But it's a deadline, and so I stick to it. So that's #1, is I actually think the accountability of a deadline makes a huge, huge difference. And when you think about the fact that you have readers expecting it, like they expect my post to be there on that day. I don't care if you have 2 readers, just imagine that they're expecting it, and it'll push you. And then you really have to, and I'll probably talk about this later, you have to focus your attention. You have to just say, this is what I'm doing right now, and just do it. And, I always say focus your attention on the time you have, because you can't manage time. Time does what it does. We have 24 hours every day. It's how we use that time and how focused we are in the time we have. So you really have to focus your attention on the time you have on that post. And I don't piddle with them, Chris. Again, I've been writing for many years. This is what while I'm a coach and all these other things, my area of expertise really is writing. I mean, that's my top skill is writing. And so I get in there, I write my post, I read it through another time, I stick it into Grammarly, I go through Grammarly with it, make sure all my grammar and punctuation, everything is correct. I drop it into WordPress, and then I review it in WordPress. So sometimes WordPress finds problems, in its program. And then I look at it. I do the preview, and I read it through one last time. And of course, I add art, and I do the search engine optimization on it, those kind of things. But then I'm done. I don't spend a week working on a blog post. So I hope that helps. That was kind of a long answer.
That was great. Gail Larson has a question. I did it in reverse. Have published 3 ebooks on Amazon, but just got blog going short time ago. Did poor job of marketing, so not many book sales. I see now that blogging is a key to productivity, to product visibility and sales. I have work to do.
Yes. Yes, but there are a lot of people who publish a book, and then especially novelists who publish a book and then create a website later. So yeah, you need to build some steam and get an audience, and then you can do some more promotion.
And then Wayne Olick asks, writing isn't the problem. How do you get people to read your blog?
So that's Frances's area of expertise. But from my perspective, the way you get people to read your blog is you have to share it. So you have to write consistently. And initially, I tell people when they first start their blog, so like for Gail, when you first start, people don't like it, but I'll say, 2 times a week minimum. 1 time is not going to cut it. So for the first 9 to 12 months, you need to be blogging more often than you want to. So blog 2 times a week, 3 times a week. If you can blog more, great, but 2 or 3 times a week will do it. And every time you publish a post, you're going to share it on every social media outlet possible. It is not hard to share your blog posts. Frances probably has lots of tricks, but you want to know what I do every day? I go to my blog and I click share Facebook, share Twitter, share LinkedIn, share Pinterest. It takes me 5 minutes. I can copy and paste my message in most cases. And the thing is, you can go in there in the morning and share to so my Facebook is linked to Twitter. So if I share on Facebook, it goes to Twitter. So I'll share on Facebook, and then I'll share on Google Plus because Google Plus isn't linked to anything. Then I'll go back and I'll share on LinkedIn at lunchtime, and LinkedIn is linked over to Twitter, and so I get another Twitter post. Then I can do Pinterest, and it's linked to Twitter. So I can just show up on my own blog 3-4 times a day and just share for all of 60 seconds and have it shared everywhere. But there are tools you can use so that your posts are getting shared more often.
And Moyara Rolson, Moyara, asks, what do you recommend saying to our social network to encourage them to subscribe to our blog? Please subscribe to my blog, or something more compelling.
I never say please subscribe to my blog. I make all my clients, before they launch their website, create what's called a lead magnet, something free you're giving away. Call it an ethical bribe. You want to get them on your mailing list, and so what you do is you give them something for free, and you say, get this, and then they get on your mailing list. And my blog posts are actually linked to my list, so that every time I publish a blog post, the people on that particular list get a blog, they get it in their email box. And then the only time I say subscribe is every Sunday. So if somebody's subscribed to How to Blog a Book, or to Write Nonfiction Now, or to ninaamir.com, every Sunday they get an email from me with a digest of posts and a little, kind of like a tiny little article that's quite personal. And there I'll say, here are the posts from this week, and if you would like to get these in your mailbox, then please be sure you've subscribed. But most of those people have subscribed because they're on that list. So that's the only time I actually say something. If you're not actually getting these in your mailbox, please do subscribe.
And Dawn asks, if you are using a pen name, does social media all need to have the pen name, correct? Yes.
Yes, but I'm not a fan of pen names unless you're using it like you are writing children's books and also thrillers or porn, or not porn.
Right.
That's not a bad word, but something more erotica. That's the right word, erotica. Or you're doing something where you don't want the kids to know that that's what you do, and so everyone out in the world knows that you are these two people. Because the thing is, how do you do social media? Well, not social media because we don't have to see you, but how are you going to promote, really, a book under a pen name? Everybody's going to know who you are. As soon as somebody sees you, some journalist, someone, they're going to figure it out, and the cat will be out of the bag. And so to me, if you're going to use a pen name, let people know that's your pen name. and then go out there and promote. Does that make sense, Frances?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people need a pen name or want a pen name. It's just, if you're going to promote well, eventually somebody's going to figure out who you are. Sorry,
I think of Suzanne Lakin, and she writes fantasy and literary fiction, and she decided to write romance. So she decided to use a pen name for her romance. I'm not sure why, but that's what she did.
She wanted a name that corresponded well with that Western. She was doing those cozy Western romances.
Yeah. Western
and
romances.
She wanted a name that worked well for that, which is fine. But everybody knows that that's who it is. Right. But she doesn't hide that fact. So anyway, that's sort of an aside. But yes, if you're gonna use your pen name everywhere, then you'll need to use it everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So on to the next question. I have to have some water. Why should an author consider blogging a book, and what are the benefits?
Okay, so first let me explain what blogging a book is in case somebody listening doesn't know. So when you blog a book, you actually set out intentionally to write your book on your blog, post by post. Okay, so this is not a retroactive thing that you say, oh, maybe there's a book in my blog. This is, I am setting out to intentionally write a book on my blog, post by post, and it's the first or second draft. Okay, so why do that? Number one is that I have something like 10 reasons on my blog if you want to go to howtoblogAbook.com. But the first one that I think is the biggest is that you're going to build a platform as you're writing. You're going to get a really engaged audience because people like to know, they get into the fact that you are actually writing this book on your blog, and they want to, turn the page. So normally, we think of them as just waiting for the next blog post, but in this case, they're waiting to turn the page. They want the next installment of your book, but it's not a chapter of your book. It's a blog post sized bit of a chapter. Anyway, as you're writing your book, you're building platform, because what happens for most aspiring authors is they say, I can't get my book written because everybody says I need to build platform, and I'm so busy building platform, writing blog posts and being on social media and speaking and all this other stuff, doing videos, that I don't have time to write. So in this case, that's not true, because every blog post is a little piece of your book. So you get it all done at the same time. Another big reason to do this is to test market your book idea. Because if you can build an audience for your blog as you're blogging your book, then you know that this is a topic that's of interest. The other thing is you can actually get comments from people. You can ask them at the end of every blog post, what did you think? And does this relate? And do you have other problems that go with this? And hey, I'm writing a book and I'd love your feedback. And so you might actually get, reader stories or anecdotes or feedback that'll help you improve the book. I think it's a way to use your time more effectively so that you stop complaining about the fact that blogging leaves you no time to write, because it becomes all the same thing. And one of the other big reasons I think is because you can attract agents and publishers. If you want a traditional publishing deal, then developing a big readership for a book you're writing right on your blog can be really helpful. Now, the requirements from agents and publishers change all the time, and even with my second edition of How to Blog a Book, I said, leave about 25–30% of the material off your blog to be put in the published book. I was at a conference recently, and a couple agents said, no, these days, some agents won't even take on a project like that unless it's only 50% on the blog. And there's some publishers who only want 50% on the blog. Now, my publisher didn't feel that way. So I think, this is where, again, you might want to think about, and that has to do with how we're planning out the book, but, you might want to think about that aspect of it. But for sure, if you're developing an audience around your blog, agents and publishers are going to be interested. And if you're going to self-publish, what that tells you is that there's an audience out there interested in your book. So those are some reasons.
Yeah, it reminds me of the author of The Martian. I believe his name's Andy Weir. And he blogged his book. And in his case, it was really helpful because scientists were helping him with aspects, or not paleontologists, but scientists were helping him with that parts of the book about growing potatoes on Mars. And then when he finished the book and he got all this input from his readers, he published it on Amazon, and it became a bestseller. He built an audience, just like you said, Nina.
Right.
Through Blog Guy's book, he built an audience.
And what was his name? What was the name of the book?
The Martian.
Oh, okay.
So,
interesting.
Yeah, it was made into a movie with Matt Damon.
Yeah, right. I remember. Yeah, so that's interesting. I didn't know that about that. I wonder whether he'd be willing to be interviewed.
Possibly. He was interviewed not that long ago by Nick Stevenson, who is a thriller author in England.
Yeah, I know who he is.
So we have another question from Connie. And she says, I blogged my first book, and that made it possible for me to finish it quickly and grow my business. That was 2010. And I believe I would not have continued to write more books if it had not been an option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a good comment.
really effective way to go about it, especially if you want to build your business. And if you're going to self-publish, you get to choose how much you put on the blog and how much you don't. And the only thing you need to know is that in the past, if you have blogged content and you use the Kindle Select program, not Kindle, but the Kindle Select program, they want your content only on their site. And so they have occasionally told people to take down their blogs
wow.
But the thing is, you don't have to use Kindle Select. You can just use Kindle.
Right.
So it's not like you can't have an ebook. Just don't use Kindle Select, and you're fine. And Kindle will check it, though, just so you know that. They come along and they'll send you a letter that say, we've put a halt to your publishing because we need to check the copyright of this material. But that's for your protection. Because it's information freely available on the internet, they want to make sure that it's yours. It's in your book, that it's your content. And you would want them to do the same if it was somebody else was using your content, right? So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. How does one tackle blogging a book? Is it the same process as writing a book?
It is, with a little difference. So what I always say is that the first thing you have to do is decide on a topic. And that sounds really silly because you want to write a book, right? And so you know the topic. But if you're going to write, like start a whole new blog like I did for how to blog a book, you want to know that you want to keep writing about this topic for a long time to come. Because after 5 months, I was like, okay, phew, I did that. I'm done now. I can go on to other things. And I started writing sporadically. And what do you think happened to the traffic I built? Went down. So blogging is a long-term venture. So you have to decide, whether this is something you're going to do for a long time first. And you have to decide if it's going to be, if you can incorporate it into your current website. Okay, or if you're starting a new website and this is not the only book you want to write, you need to start thinking about those things first. So I always say that. Choose your topic carefully. Check to see how this is going to integrate with your current website or blog or all of that. Then, and this is no different than what I would tell somebody writing any book, even a novel, I think you need to create a business plan for your book. And I wrote a whole book about this called the Author Training Manual. But you need to know, you need to have a pitch, and you need to know the benefits of your book to your readers. You need to know who your readers are, so you need to do market analysis and know how you're going to reach them. So it was Gail asked, or somebody asked, how do you, get the readers? Well, you have to know where they are, right? So that's part of your market analysis is who are they, where do they hang out, how can I reach them, how many of them are there, what are their needs, what are their questions, what are their problems, and how can you address those with this book? The business plan also has a competitive analysis, and when you're blogging a book, it's not just a competitive analysis of the books that are in the bookstore right now on your topic. It's also a competitive analysis of similar blogs. You want to be different than those other bloggers and different blogs, so you need to take a look to see how am I going to blog in a way that sets me apart from the competition. Once you have all that, then it's very similar again to doing a regular book, because what you're going to do is you're going to plan out a table of contents and do some chapter summaries. So yes, I ask all my authors, even if they're novelists, to do chapter summaries so they know what they're going to write. It makes writing go much faster. So in this case, if you're blogging a book, your chapter summaries are actually very detailed, because what you're going to do is you're going to break every chapter down into blog post sized bits. Now, some people say a blog post needs to be 1,200 words or more to get engagement. if you're blogging a book, the goal is to have more posts over time. So because the more posts you write, the more Google catalogs them, right? So if you only write one post every 2 weeks, that's 1,500 words, could be a whole chapter. I'm not talking about that. That's serialization. I'm talking about writing a lot of posts. So, 3 a week or 4 a week that are all parts of the chapter. So 300, the rule of thumb is Google needs 300 words to index your blog post. So I always say 300 to 500 words. Well, it used to be, there was all these algorithms. It used to be 200 words. Then I went to 300 words, and now if you ask, nobody knows what it is. So I always just say, write 300 words so that way you know that you get well indexed. And actually, if you use the plugin Yoast SEO by Yoast, it'll tell you if your blog post is too short. So, so rule of thumb, 300 to 500 words minimum. I try not to go over 750, 900 words because we want to put more content out there on a regular basis. So to conclude this, you want to plan these out. What are the blog posts that make up every chapter? And then when you have that, the last thing is to figure out what you're leaving out. Because as I said, if you want to traditionally publish, you need to leave something off the blog. And if you're not going to traditionally publish, you still want to leave something off the blog because you want to entice readers to your book with some new content. They're going to buy it anyway if they love you as a blogger, as a souvenir. But you definitely want to think about that. And plus, if they've been reading it all along, they're invested in it. They have ownership in it. Right. If they've been commenting and all of that, they're going to want a copy. So you want to give them something in it that is not on the blog. So that's pretty much it.
Cool. That was great.
Thank you.
Okay. No more questions. Okay, I have questions. What are my questions? Okay, now once that you've blogged a book, what's going to be the next step?
You are going to, go ahead.
Revisions are going to be needed because blogging a book isn't exactly like writing a book, right?
Right. So when I blogged How to Blog a Book, I didn't do as much planning, and so I ended up adding a lot of content. So even though I had 2 chapters I planned to add as the additional content, the new content, previously unpublished, I actually discovered that my book could have been twice as long, which would have built way more audience had I blogged that. So my book doubled in size just by revisions and additions. But you're right. So depending on the book and this, I think the style, I think you gain a voice blogging that you don't gain in other ways. And so the voice for blogging should be okay for your book. I mean, make that decision in advance. So you should be able to go through and just, get rid of some of the bulleted items because you don't want to have as many bulleted items, and if there are any transitions that need to be changed because you have 10 blog posts that make up one chapter, you may need to make sure it all flows. But pretty much if you've planned it out, that should be an easy process. But the other thing is, for me, my blog posts went up. I'd say they were maybe second drafts because I wrote it and then I edited right before it went up. Right. So, it might have gotten edited, in the whole process of how I do my blogging, it might have been edited 2 or 3 times. But I'd say it was the second draft. So you're working with a draft. So of course you're going to revise and edit and finish it up and add the content that you left off the blog.
Yeah, makes sense, Nina. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Let me see. We have a question by Connie again. Are you still beginning with an outline? Well, yes. The outline to me is the table of contents, and I don't do that until I've done the market analysis and the competitive analysis and written a pitch and figured out what the benefit is, all that stuff. Until I've synced everything up, then I write a table of contents, and then for your own sake, if you weren't going traditional publishing, your chapter outlines could just be bulleted items, which could be an outline, right? It could be turned into an outline. So yes, at that point you're going to have an outline, but I like to have it fairly detailed so that I don't ever question what I'm sitting down to write. I want to sit down at the computer and say, today I write this, and know exactly what it is, what my points are, all of that. So it's a very detailed outline. Okay, that's good. I don't write detailed outlines. When I write a book, which is always nonfiction, then I do a table of contents, and then that kind of becomes my outline. So I'm a little more.
It is. Well, that's the structure. That's definitely the structure for your book. And a lot of people just work with that. I just found that I hate writing chapter summaries, but once I have them, it makes writing my book so much easier.
Oh, that's true.
And much less revision.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, in How to Blog a Book, you say that authors can repurpose their posts or book a blog. How? You've kind of answered that.
Not exactly.
No? Okay.
I'll elaborate. I mean, I have, but I'll elaborate a little bit just so people know. So Joel Friedlander actually was the one who coined the term booking a blog. And basically what it means is repurposing your posts. But the problem is that most people decide that they can book their blog, meaning go back and find content on their blog and turn it into a book. Like that's all they have to do is just say, I think there's a book in my blog and I'm going to grab these 30 posts and it's a book. And that is not a book. That is not a good book anyway. What you need to do is decide what the best book is that you could write based on your content. So if you write about dog training, then you say, okay, I want to write a book about dog training, but what aspect of dog training? So maybe it's training dogs to swim. I'm thinking about that because my daughter's dog won't swim. So yeah, and he's part lab, but he's also part whippet, and whippets don't swim. So anyway, so let's say that's what you're going to do. So you don't just say, okay, I'm going to go grab the 15 posts I wrote about this, and that's my book. You decide what is the best book I can write, going through the same exact business process I talked about. You create a business plan. Who's the market? What are their problems? Their questions, blah, blah, blah. What's the competition out there? What other books have been published on this particular topic, if any? What makes my content unique and necessary in the marketplace? Then you write a table of contents. And then with the table of contents, you outline what's going in every chapter. Then, and only then, do you go back to your blog and say, what blog posts have I published that I can use in this book? And you plug them in and you say, okay, this content I have that content I have it, this content never wrote that. And so now what you have is some of your content, and you are going to revise that and make it fit into your book, but you're also going to write the content that's missing. So do you see how it isn't just taking the post and going, I have a book. So a lot of the books that I've written other books on my blogs besides How to Blog a Book, and I plan them out. It's a series. It's like a series of posts. And so then it becomes very easy to revise and add content and all of that.
Good. Let me check here. Okay. So if you have an outline, what happens if you change your outline over time?
Well, that can happen. The question is, are you changing it because you're getting off track? You're going off on tangents, or are you changing it because it's something that you really feel is necessary to serve the needs of your readers? So, yeah, I mean, things change. I mean, we write books, we find we were wrong, that we didn't need to include something, or we did need to include something that we didn't have on there, but, as long as it's serving the ultimate purpose of the book, it's fine.
All right, and Gail Larson says, I was thinking about creating an outline course and then create a book from that. Would building course content work on a blog, or would that be revealing too much too early?
No, and I've written about this. Joel has written about it. You definitely can build course content and write about that on your blog and then use it. The thing is, the majority of people aren't going to go to your blog. Like, they're not going to remember that you wrote that specifically. And again, it's going to be revised. So if you write content on your blog to promote a course, right, you can take that content, or even not to promote the course, but you can take that content and make it part of the course with no problem. And that's a great way to do it. See, books, you can have a book first and then a course, or you can have a course first and then a book. But there's no reason you couldn't put information from the course on the blog, then do the course, and then do the book, or any part, mix that up any way you like. So yeah.
All right. And we're going to go to our next question. So, When you say we can turn our blogs into book production machines, what exactly do you mean?
So it's kind of what I just intimated, that I often write series. So if you look at some of my books, like Blogging Basics for Authors, I did a series on my blog for like 2 months where I was writing blog posts that were about how to become a better blogger, how to improve your blog. And I knew it. I knew that I was doing that, right? And so I knew that at the end of that, it would become a book. There's still a book on there somewhere about guest blogging that I wrote that I just haven't done anything with yet. But that's the idea, is that if you think in advance about what you're blogging, you could say, I'm now doing a series on this, or every month I write this. So I have a whole bunch of writing prompts. Nonfiction writing, well, they're kind of not just writing prompts, they're platform build, everything to do with being a nonfiction author. So there are prompts. And I told my agent one day, because I actually do assisted self-publishing now, my literary agent helps me. And I said, I think we need to, I have like 52 of these prompts. Why don't we do a prompt book for nonfiction authors? And, so that's the idea, is you want to be thinking all the time about how you can turn that blog content into books. And then it becomes a book production machine.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I actually blogged my last book.
Did you?
And it was my second edition of Social Media Just for Writers. And I knew what the chapters were going to be on. And so I just planned those chapters. And then when the blogs were done, I just put them into the book format, revised it, and that was it.
Awesome. I should feature you on my blog.
Yeah, that's what I did. It made writing a book so much easier.
Yeah.
Keeping up a blog and then writing a book, it was just all one project. Even my guest blogs were proposed out of knowing ahead what I wanted to write about in my book.
Right. Yeah.
So
perfect.
It was great. And so let's talk about your newest book, which I've really enjoyed, Creative Visualizations for Writers. How did you come up with the idea for this book?
So I saw the huge trend, or whatever you want to call it, of adult coloring books. And I saw one or two self-published ones for writers that I didn't think were all that great. And I was thinking about it, and I thought, excuse me, I thought, writers are too busy for coloring books. Like, who wants to, we don't have time to do that. We're stressed, maybe. We could use it for stress reduction, but I just thought that wasn't, I liked the idea of incorporating that idea, the coloring book thing for writers, but I just thought there was a better way. And so I started thinking about it and started formulating this idea of a book that involved coloring and drawing as well as writing, but doing things that were, and affirmations and all of that, but that were leading writers into where they wanted to go, which was successful authorship, to getting their books written, getting them published, all of that. And I thought, well, if I could do something where it's helping them focus, because coloring is a focus exercise, but what if you were focused on a best-selling book? If you were coloring a picture of that and you had affirmations to go with it and you were visualizing, and it was, and I've been interested in the, conscious creation, deliberate creation, law of attraction, all that stuff for years and years and years. I did a ton of research on how to find it in mystical traditions, and eventually, well, I'll have a book on something related. Anyway, I was at the book expo in New York, and I was supposed to meet with my publisher, and so I walked up, and I can't remember how we got on the topic, but I said, have you ever thought about doing a coloring book for authors? And he said, it's so funny, before I came here today, I was researching coloring books for authors, and there's only one. And I said, no, there's two, but they're self-published. And I said, but I don't think authors want one of those. And he said, neither do I. And so I pitched this idea to him for something that was that had coloring book pages and had coloring and drawing in it, but that was not a coloring book for adults. And he loved it, and he called in the sales aide. There was one of his major sales reps was there, and he brought him in and said, what do you think? And he said, I'd love it. And he was the one who initially said, he said, it's like a creative visualization for writers. And I was like, I read Shakti Gawain's book, long ago. She has a best-selling book called Creative Visualization. One of the first books I read when I got involved in metaphysics and spirituality and all of that. And I was like, oh, no, we can't call it that. But that's what they called it. That wasn't my title. I don't even remember what my title was, but that wasn't it. Anyway, that's how it came to pass.
Well, that's fabulous. So who's the publisher of that book?
Writer's Digest Books.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Synergy.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun because, I mean, we just developed it right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
How interesting. Let me see what this is doing. Okay. This is great information. This is Holly. Really getting the wheels spinning. I'm a blogger and author and also am in the middle of writing my dissertation. I'm going to use this concept as for a win-win-win. Thank you.
You're welcome, Holly. Keep one thing in mind. Dissertations are written to prove a point to your professors, and that is not what a reader wants. You do need to prove your point to the reader, right, to make sure that they believe it, they trust you and believe in it, but they want answers to their problems, you know, or answers to their questions, solutions to their problems, that kind of thing. So usually it requires a little different focus if you're going to start blogging it or writing a book on your dissertation.
That's a great point. So how long have you been working with writers?
Oh, how long have I been working with writers? Since 1990.
Wow. It's a long
1990.
time.
Yeah, I started editing books, and I started editing books for some people I knew, people or their husbands, things like that. They would come to me and ask me about books, and my second book was self-published, but then it was purchased verbatim by Simon & Schuster, and it's still in print today. So published in 1991, it's still in print today under the Fireside imprint, and it sold well over 320,000 copies. So that's how I started. And it wasn't until, I would say, I don't know, maybe early 2000s, like 2005 or so, that I started coaching.
That's fabulous.
So, yeah.
That's really good. That's impressive.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah,
now,
I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah. Now, I know that 2 years ago you added certified high performance coach to your other coaching titles, like author coach, blog coach, and book coach. Plus, you're an editor, book doctor, and author trainer. Why did you get the high performance coaching certification?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot, Francis. So I did it for myself first. I love personal growth. It is my passion, always has been. If anybody has known me since 2005 or so, when I started blogging, my first blog, I think, was the one that's on ninaamir.com now. It was somewhere else before that. But anyway, it was all about personal growth and practical spirituality. And it really is my passion. But I really wanted to level up myself. People saw me as very productive and successful, but in my mind, I just had a long way to go. And I was already involved, as I said, with personal growth in a variety of ways. And I was bringing that to the table in my coaching and writing and in my own life. But I had gotten involved with New York Times bestselling author Brendon Burchard's work. And I attended his High Performance Academy, and then I got coached by one of his, actually two of his certified high performance coaches. And I just said, this is phenomenal. This is what I want to be doing. And I always wanted to do more personal development work, not just on myself, but with clients. And I felt like I needed a certification, although I had done some work, in this area before. I did think that becoming a certified high performance coach would help me get the books published I wanted to write down the pike, because those books would be more personal growth and practical spirituality oriented. Those are actually the books I started out to write. I did not start out to be a writing and publishing and blogging expert. So it was like a way to get back on track with that and have that certification. But it also, it was just so near and dear to my heart, and I really felt like it was essential for success in every area. And that was what I learned from Brendon, was that really high performers in any industry, including writing and publishing, right? The publishing industry, they know how to do certain things. They're mastering their psychology and their physiology and their productivity and their influence and their purpose and all these things. And so I just saw that this was something that I wanted for me, and I also wanted to bring it to the table for my clients.
That's great. I know it's supposed to be a phenomenal program.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. He's pretty incredible. I've seen some of his videos, and if you want to see any of his videos, look up Brendan Burchard, and he's just phenomenal.
He is. And he's always on the cutting edge.
And Connie says, you started in this business when you were a little girl.
I'm older than you think. I'm closer to 60 than to 50. Let's put it that way.
Oh, gosh. So what if you give us like 2 or 3 of your best productivity tips?
Okay. So one is to come to your desk energized. So I think one of the biggest problems is that we come to our desk and we sit there, kind of like this, with our hands out, and we're like, okay, I'm going to write. And that's not going to help you be productive, and it's not going to help you think clearly and all of that. So you have to come to the desk physically and mentally prepared to write, and so to do that, you need to energize yourself. So I usually teach, like in my Nonfiction Writers University, I teach, we do virtual writing sessions once a month, and I always have everybody do breathing exercises that come straight out of high performance. So we do breathing exercises, so we sit down energized. Your brain needs oxygen, right? Your brain needs oxygen, your body needs oxygen. To be creative and clear-headed, you need to be energized. Plus, if you come to the desk depressed and just with bad energy, it's the same. You're not going to be able to write well. So you want to come to the desk with positive energy and high energy. The other thing is to be sure that when you sit down to write, you know what you're going to write about. So you notice that I've talked a lot about planning out what you write. And the reason for that is because it's too easy to sit staring at the screen and not write anything. So you want to say, to block out time. So that's another tip, is block out time on your calendar. This is when I write. And then don't just say writing block, write down, work on, finish 500 words of chapter 2, or handle these 2 sections of chapter 2. That way you sit down, you know exactly what you're going to do, and it'll be much easier. Also, get rid of all distractions. Frances, you have a lot of articles you've written or blog posts you've written on ways to eliminate distraction on your computer. The easiest is to turn off the internet, or turn off the internet on your computer, and just, or use a distraction-free environment. I like to use Scrivener, although you can easily click out of Scrivener, but, still, you're creating an environment where you have less distractions. And then, just as I said, focus your attention on the time you have. You have to just eliminate everything else. Don't answer the phone, or turn it off, or whatever, or go somewhere else where you don't hear those things. Sometimes people like to work in coffee shops for that reason. They don't have the distractions that they have at home. So those are just a few.
Cool. Well, I think we've exhausted the questions, and it's almost 1 o'clock. So I think this has come to an end, Nina.
Aw.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on this show today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was my pleasure. And, if I can be of service to anyone in any way, I'm always here. It's my goal to help writers get out of their own way. I think that they get in their own way. That's why they don't write. That's why they don't embrace social media, all those things. And that's where the personal development comes in, and, all of that. So thank you.
Good. Well, bye, everyone. Bye, Nina.
Bye. Are you off?
Yeah, I'm off.
Okay. Thanks, Frances.